So, I've been putting in a lot of time into Petit Planet since the beta started, and so I wanted to introduce a couple more features that I've uncovered during my playtime, as well as talk about the future of Petit Planet with you all and what I feel like it can become. However, if you haven't seen my first video on Petit Planet, where I cover most of the gameplay and features, you can check it out right here. That being said, to start with the new stuff, there's an even greater level of customization offered in the game through the Planet Maker system, which essentially lets you terraform your planet to your liking. At present, this allows you to add land masses and rivers to just about anywhere you'd want to really create something of your own. Furthermore, through the same features, you can add pavement tiles as well as outdoor furniture to your planet. The fact that you can do all of this from the same menu helps the whole process feel pretty seamless. To top it all off, I also personally haven't really run into any difficulties or bugs with the decorating system so far. So, when the game fully launches, when it does, I think plenty of people will have a great time decorating and showing off their whole planet, and I'm really excited to see the stuff you guys create. Honestly, the level of customization as a whole is really solid. You've got your own outfits, you have your neighbors' outfits, you have your own house, you have your neighbors' houses, and then to top it all off, you've got the ability to shape and decorate your whole planet to show off to your friends. I mean, I'm not blind, it's almost a one-to-one with the gameplay loop of Animal Crossing. However, I really don't think that's a bad thing. If you played New Horizons when it was coming out, one of the main requests, at least for myself, was that the game will continue to be updated almost like a live service game, and this is a game that will deliver that experience. We're talking new neighbors, seasonal content, new fashion items, and an ever-expanding gameplay loop. I'm fairly positive that Hoyo of all people will deliver when it comes to these things, and to me, the life sim genre at least feels like a place where the live service model actually makes sense. Of course, the obvious worry would be how the game is monetized, and unfortunately that's the one thing we'll have to wait and see on, as the coziness test doesn't have any form of monetization present. I'm definitely hopeful though that it'll just primarily be for the cosmetics, as that's really the only system I see in the current state of the game that it would even make sense to try and monetize. All that being said, the other gameplay feature that I did mention in my last video was how Hoyo has incorporated AI chatbot features into some of their NPCs. I plan to go more in depth in another video, but the gist is that one of them is called your Planet Life Guide, and it's essentially an in-game Wikipedia. You type out your question related to the game, and it'll answer, which is honestly pretty cool. It was actually helpful for tracking down recipes and figuring out what some items even do. That being said, this AI was really only there to answer questions about the game, and it didn't really do much of anything else. However, there is actually another AI chatbot in Petit Planet called Nalo, and she can be found in the coffee shop located inside of the multiplayer hub, the Grand Bazaar. I honestly didn't even realize she was a chatbot at first. I just thought she was there to serve some coffee and help the coffee shop feel more lively, you know? However, after typing to her for a little bit, sure enough, she is legitimately an AI NPC. She'll tell you stories, play word games with you, and most impressively, she'll actually remember conversations you've had, which is kind of uncanny. In a game designed for you to just kind of chill and hang out with friends and the NPCs, it's actually an interesting premise to have an NPC that will not just try and talk to you, but also continuously come up with new conversation topics and potentially grow with you as a player. Now, I'm also pretty sure some people have found ways to break her AI to say some crazy stuff already, but even when played straight, it's a cool concept to transform what would just be a throwaway NPC in any other game into something way more memorable. That being said, I've also seen some sentiment about being worried about Hoyo using AI, but in the way it's currently being used, it's not intrusive at all. And more importantly, your neighbor NPCs that actually live and interact on your planet aren't AI. They have clear written dialogue with established personalities, and they're equally enjoyable to talk to. I do agree though that it'd definitely be detrimental if all of the NPCs operated as AI. So I'm glad to see that, at least for right now, it's pretty self-contained. So it'll be interesting to see how Hoyo chooses to incorporate it moving forward. In my mind, how I see it playing out would be maybe the occasional seasonal NPC having this AI chatbot feature, while any established or new neighbor NPCs would be your traditional character with dialogue trees in order to not break people's immersions with characters living on their planet. And if I had to guess, the decision to even include an AI chatbot feature would be to help keep things fresh for players in between content updates. Since if you've played an Animal Crossing game before, you know that after a while there's only so many times you can talk to your villagers before the dialogue just gets old. That being said, like it says in the thumbnail, I truly do think Petit Planet has a ton of potential as a live service life sim, since even the day-to-day dialogue with your neighbors could be expanded upon as new patches come out. So, if this kind of game is at all in your wheelhouse, I really do think it's worth keeping an eye on. There's a good chance there'll be at least 1 to 2 more beta tests before the official launch, so I wish you all the best of luck in getting in future tests. And that about wraps it up for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I'm planning on going more in depth on the whole AI chatbot thing, since even the newly released Where Winds Meet has some of that going on. So, be sure to subscribe to not miss that upload. Let me know in the comments what you're most looking forward to in Petit Planet, and most importantly, have a blessed day.